De'Aaron Fox, who is involved in a much lesser drama of his own. On Monday, it was widely reported that the Sacramento Kings intended to field trade offers for former All-Star point guard De'Aaron Fox. This is in the aftermath of Fox informing the team that he would not be signing a contract extension. He's got a contract that runs through 2026. This is surprising, though it can't really be considered shocking, I would say, because Fox has turned down multiple extensions in the past. But this does put the Kings in a very difficult spot. Your reaction to the de facto trade request by De'Aaron Fox?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, he has every right not to want to sign another contract. He is an adult. We all get to pick where we work. It's still a little shaky that these guys don't get to pick where they work coming out of college, even though the rest of us do. But even if you give them that grace period of saying, hey, a league has to work, that there's a distribution of talent, once that talent reaches an age he is, I believe he's 27.
27, yeah.
He's allowed to decide where he wants to live and what city he wants to live in and what kind of team he wants to be on. And the Sacramento Kings have not been what we call the most functional franchise in league history. And yes, there's been some steadying over recent years from, the absolute craziness it was maybe 5 to 7 years ago. But come on, if you are looking to be a serious player and win a championship, it is easy to lose confidence in that organization and want to go somewhere else. And he's allowed to want to do that. It's interesting to me that his top destination is San Antonio. You know me, I'm all in on Wemby. I feel like, anybody should want to play with him no matter where he's playing. And the fact that also De'Aaron's from Texas and it wouldn't be such a stretch for him to want to be there at all. Whoever it is who gets in as the guard that works with Wemby, that's it. They're set.
It's a race
for the rest of their career.
It's a race for that slot.
Right?
The Spurs are going to get somebody of all-star, all-NBA caliber to play next to Victor Wembanyama. And if I'm De'Aaron Fox and I'm looking at the next 5 years, that would be where I'd want to go.
Sure.
Wind up. I agree with you 100%. I think De'Aaron Fox is handling this in the best way possible. He's not signing an extension and then asking out, which drives people crazy. He's not demanding a trade and then pulling a Jimmy Butler, who we're going to get to in a minute, and screwing things up. He's averaging like 25 per game. Like, he's playing at a level that will, should earn him consideration for an all-star spot. Probably not going to get it, but he's earning that consideration. In a way, he's doing the Kings a huge favor here.
Of course.
Like, he's telling them, like, hey, you can do whatever you want. I will play for you at this level for the next year and a half, if that's what you want. But I'm not signing your extension. So if you want to try to get something for me, now is the time. And he's made it clear, and the Kings don't have to trade him to San Antonio, but that's where he ultimately wants to be. I think he's done exactly the right thing. And you know what? If you're Sacramento, if you're looking for reasons why he's doing this, look yourself in the mirror.
That's what I'm saying.
48-win team less than 2 years ago. 3rd seed in the Western Conference.
Yep.
Light the beam. Everybody is excited. All these guys. Sabonis is there. Fox is there.
First
Keegan
time
Murray
in the
is there.
playoffs in how
First
many
time in the
years?
playoffs in 16 years. Kevin Huerter looks like a great sniper for postseason play. They have not built on that. There was one thing that team needed: a defensive stopper at the wing position, and they haven't got him. They're like, to me, they're like the Boston Red Sox of the West Coast, where they're in on all these guys. They're in on, like, we're in on Pascal Siakam. We're in on OG Anunoby. We're in on all these defensive-minded wings that are going to help our team. Your team, in the entire De'Aaron Fox era, and I looked this up, has never finished above, like, the middle of the pack in defensive efficiency. More often than not, they're somewhere in the 20s.
That's crazy.
Like, you got enough offense. You got enough firepower. You got to go out there and get a 3-and-D wing player. Their response was to go get DeMar DeRozan. And I love DeMar DeRozan, and he's been exactly what he's always been with Sacramento. A good mid-range shooter, a good fourth-quarter player, but he's not a 3-and-D guy. He's not what that team needed. So if I'm De'Aaron Fox, and since that moment, where the pinnacle moment, where they pushed Golden State to 7 games in the first round of the 23 playoffs, everything has been a little bit of regression. Last year, they only were a couple wins off their pace before, but they still didn't get into the playoffs. This year, they start 13-19. For some reason, people were blaming him for the Mike Brown fire, which I never really understood. Like, using one video, like one conversation they were having. Social media sucks. Like, everything has kind of gone downhill for him over the last year and a half. So, like, what do you expect? Like, do you expect your young star at 27 to be looking at, like, San Antonio, Houston, where he's from, maybe even Miami, if they get their act together, it's saying like, that's not a better solution for me? No, the Kings have no one to blame for them but themselves for the situation.
And by the way, what's the opposite of the Sacramento Kings in terms of organizational steadiness?
San Antonio, yes.
Right? The right people in the right place, making competent, rational decisions. It is literally at the other end of the spectrum. So I understand that he might be craving, in addition to the Wemby factor, which would be enough, he might be craving some of that too. And by the way, as we look at potential destinations for him, yes, they could trade him now before the deadline if they get enough of a package. And I always think it's smart of teams to at least dangle a guy out there because there is a little more desperation in the middle of the season for teams that aren't doing well, who know they have championship expectations, and you have general managers who fear they will lose their jobs at the end of the year. So they're willing to make more of an all-in trade, screw the future type of situation. If it doesn't work out, they won't be there anyway. So I think it's smart to dangle him now, but if they don't get a good offer, a good enough deal, they can still do it this summer.
With this guy is like the two teams that I think are the most likely to be competitive, they have no such issues. Like San Antonio is in no rush. Victor Wembanyama just became legal to drink. Houston has been telling anyone that will listen,
we're not messing
they're
with
not doing
right
anything
now
with this group right now. Like maybe if Devin Booker became available, they might change that too. But other than that, it's all this. So like, it's
just to see. Take it out for a test drive. See what offers you get. Gives you information for the summer. Maybe he'll be traded in the next week or so. But also,
I doubt it though.
Maybe it'll be this summer.
Like if you're San Antonio, like what's your motivation?
There's no need to do it right now.
Like this is the honeymoon year. Like let's get to 500. Let's get Wembanyama in a play-in game. Like let's do that. We've got Chris Paul there, Harrison Barnes. Let's just learn more. Let's get a little bit better. And then in the offseason, when you've got some more time to think about this, not the 8 days or 9 days or whatever it's going to be before that trade deadline. And same thing with Houston. Like Houston, maybe they get to the playoffs, they get beat in the second round. They realize like Jalen Green's not the guy, or they, have some flexibility with Fred VanVleet's contract and some of the Suns' capital that they've got ownership over for the next couple of years. Like this is the kind of thing that I think needs to be sorted out in the offseason.
Let me ask you an interesting question about San Antonio, because as you said, it's going to be a little bit of a race to see who gets to be his partner on the court for the next however many years. I mean, you were basically making room in your safe deposit box for rings, as far as I'm concerned.
You've been driving the Wemby's to be the greatest player of all time.
I am.
Sooner rather than later.
By the way, I'm not saying he will be the greatest player of time, but I will say that we might be having all this argument over LeBron and Jordan and Kareem and whatever. We might be 20 years from now having a different conversation.
Oh yeah. I can agree with that.
That being said, I do think I can say now that barring a major injury, I feel he will be one of the top 10 players of all time because his gifts. I know we can disagree, and then you know what?
No, we agree.
Oh, we agree. Okay,
it's hard to say otherwise. I agree with that one. I actually think it's kind of funny that like the AD interview with Shams, like where AD seemed like really annoyed that these like the narrative of Wemby being the like it's not the same thing as Rudy. Like Rudy sometimes maybe even though Rudy was a walking top 5 defense, like Wembanyama is a better defensive player than Rudy. Like he probably should have won it last year.
Yes,
but I think as a rookie,
he just had a rough couple months start.
Yeah, I think people could have given him as a rookie, and Rudy was Rudy, and but I think from now until whenever, if he gets over that 65 game threshold, he's winning that award.
I mean, Anthony Davis, unfortunately, I think his window has passed unless there's a Wemby injury year. But beyond that, beyond the race to see who's going to be his playing partner, as we say. What do you think in terms of San Antonio having to keep him happy and engaged? Because everything we've heard about him since he was in France before he was drafted is that he is hyper competitive and that he is not good at losing and that he gets frustrated easily by losing. And that last season was really hard for him, according to accounts of people around him, and that sustained losing over a period of time while they judge and look and say, okay, we're waiting for the perfect guy to come along to be that point guard. How long do you think, what's their window to get that done, to make sure that one of the best players potentially ever does a Tim Duncan, does a David Robinson, and stays in San Antonio the rest of his career?
I think they've got a decent sized runway.
I mean, they've got the 7 years, or I guess, well, I don't know how much money he feels like he needs to take for the second max.
I think like, he and I talked about this in the preseason when I went down there. And he gets it. Like I hate using the word process, but he gets the process. And I think fundamentally what's important for San Antonio is that even if it's incremental improvements to the roster, you're still making improvements.
Right.
They did that this year. I mean, CP, good addition.
100%.
Harrison Barnes has been Harrison Barnes is good on the floor.
Yeah.
But what Pop told me in the preseason was like, we consider Harrison Barnes one of the great practice players. Like, and we, whatever his habits are in practice, I'm sure Wembanyama is gaining something from that.
Yep.
So, as long as they, this summer, maybe they don't have to take the big swing, get De'Aaron Fox. Maybe you say, look, I've got Stephen Castle. He's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the guy we're going to play next to him. But as long as they take another step forward and push this team closer to a higher level, like, if they, a 500 season, if they can get there, is awesome.
No,
is awesome.
I'm not saying they have to win next year, and they do have runway, et cetera. But I'm just curious: is it a 5-year window? Is it a 3-year window? Like, what do you, as sitting here today, what would you say is their window to be a competitive, in the mix playoff?
5
team?
years to compete for
a
the Western
championship.
Conference championship. I would say, I would
Oh,
say.
I think it's shorter. I think it's 5 years to compete for an NBA title.
Yeah, okay, I could see that because you look year 3, maybe they're getting deeper into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Year 4, he's just a terror on both ends of the floor. Yeah, I mean 4 or 5 years to compete for a championship, and I think they can do it. They're obviously smart organizationally. They've got the draft capital. They've got tradable players on there, and they're not wed to really anybody outside of Wemby and Castle.
Yeah,
you can trade Keldon Johnson, trade Devin Vassell. Like, there's just it's a good time to be a San Antonio Spurs fan. And to bring it all full circle, like, I don't blame De'Aaron Fox. Like, he's a Texas guy looking down there going, hey, I want to be his running mate. I love Texas. And yeah, I'm forking over some money maybe with the Supermax and the possibility he could get it. Hey, state income tax in Texas.
Yeah, 0.
You can make some money off of that.
Do you get a ring if you're like the water boy or water girl? Because in a few years, I might consider, I have such faith in Wembanyama, maybe I go do that job for a few years just to get a ring myself.
I can tell you as a former ball boy, you do get a ring. Now, I didn't because I was part of the ML Carr, D Brown, David Wesley years in Boston. But my brother has a ring. Has 2 rings, actually. From his time. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It's nice to...
I didn't know you were related to such NBA royalty.
Royalty. I don't know where those rings are, but they're somewhere in his house.